An evaluation and restructuring report of the Antigua And Barbuda Port Authority was presented to stakeholders at a special meeting on Tuesday at the City View Hotel. In this report, Elisa Graham tells us about the eye-opening realities that have negatively affected the overall operations of the facility and the suggested recommendations going forward.
The assessment was conducted by Adair and Associates, a consultancy firm out of Jamaica. The report primarily blames a weak management structure for the state of operations at the Antigua Port Authority. Specific mention was made of strategic planning and process management. The firm's William Powell elaborates.
There's an absence of what we call key competencies in the management of the organization and in the staffing of the organization, because if you look at port authorities globally, what you'll find is that competency management models are very important, particularly in the strategic planning process. But what we find is that there is not an awful lot of strategic planning at this port authority. There's also the absence of what we call process management, which basically aims to meet the objectives established by a strategic plan. So if you don't have a strategic plan in place, it's going to be difficult to carry out the process management activities that are required.
The report ranks the main port of entry as 30th out of 50 similar facilities across the Caribbean and Latin America, using international standards as benchmarks for port operations. According to the report, even though the region is bouncing back from the economic crisis, the Antigua Port Authority has seen a major decline in business compared to other ports in the region. Consultant Karen Adair gives further details.
Over the past couple of years, there's a clear problem in terms of business is declining, and this is even more marked since the recession. When we compare business positioning, whereas Antigua and St. Lucia and even the Port of Kingston tend to be rebounding since the recession, we do not see that with the Antigua port. So in terms of recommendations, there's an urgent need for rationalization of staff. Rationalization because when one looks at the number of persons employed in a port, there must be a close relationship between numbers of persons employed with cargo volume.
The Antigua Port Authority is deemed a high-cost facility due to a 1960s design which negatively affects general operations. The report made a number of recommendations to include a need for multitasking, the introduction of a productivity incentive scheme for workers, port operations and maintenance training, modernization of the port's infrastructure, and tariff with specific emphasis placed on Barbuda. There is also a call for an up-to-date accounting structure and IT systems and the advancement for a clearly articulated compensation management philosophy. For ABS News, Elisa Graham reporting.